Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Chikara no Rekishi, the history of Chikara. Been a while, hasn't it? Well, I've got my reasons for having taken so long to get back to this particular sub-series, and I'll get into that when we get to our next episode. But one of my admittedly late-starting New Year's resolutions, yes, I know it's February, is to put out 2 videos a week. One AWL episode and one other video. Either a Last Wrestling Podcast episode or an episode of Chikara no Rekishi. And because we're getting to the point we are nearly a year behind on Chikara, I really need to get back to this, and I put it off long enough. So, starting today, we're taking a look at Aniversario. Now, Aniversario, as you have probably guessed, means the anniversary of Chikara. And alongside the season premieres, season finales, and King of Trios tournament, these are sort of the big 4 bedposts, fence posts, load-bearing parts of the Chikara calendar. And there's been a history of some not horribly wonderful things happening at Aniversario events. We are taking a look once again at the now last season of Chikara, previous season I should say, not final, Aniversario, the Apes of Wrath, one half of a 2-night event. This took place on Saturday, May the 25th, 2019, at the White Oak Athletic Association in White Oak, Pennsylvania, United States of America. Why they feel the need to put that on the show, I have no idea. Taking a quick look up and down the card, we've got 8 matches on the bill tonight, and it looks like this is pretty much going to be a warm-up for the following evening. We do have some debuts tonight. We've got 1 championship on the line, as Still Life, with Apricots and Pears, is set to defend the Young Lions Cup in the 4th from the top match, and it looks like a good show. Now, here's the question. How does this fit into the overall Chikara storyline? Well, when last we left our intrepid promotion, Ophidian had just won a golden opportunity by walking across a room. In one of the best Rumble-style matches I've ever seen in my life, the Infinite Gauntlet produced not only an undeserving winner in Ophidian the Cobra, but a new alliance of faceless, by which I mean masked, enhancement, loser nobodies that work together to become the most formidable force I've ever seen in a Rumble-style match. Now, between the events of the Infinite Gauntlet and the events of this show, the next on the calendar, Chikara has released, or it has been released on Chikaratopia, a series of videos, vignettes, small things, little episodic adventures called The Crucible, Fall from Grace, The Mole, Lumps, Flushed, and Zero. These all took place, or at least were posted, on the 20th of May, 5 days before this event. I will be covering them in a separate video. We're going to be going into this show, into Aniversario, with the assumption that that has not been viewed. But I'm guessing by the logo, the sort of stylized C with a flame logo, that the Crucible is the name of this new faction. And judging by the number of new names on the match card for tonight, I'm guessing that we're going to be seeing quite a few Crucible versus Chikara matches. And I think that's actually what we're going to be starting off with our first match of the evening. It's the Dickensian Degenerates, Crummels and Defarge, versus Zachary Wentez and Trey Miguel. And I have absolutely no idea who Wentez and Miguel are. I may not even be pronouncing that name correctly. This is going to be interesting. Nobody appears to have any points going into this, so here goes absolutely nothing. Well, listen, 5 minutes into the video, and already I got something wrong. It turns out these two are not parts of the Crucible. They are a couple of guys from Impact. Still no idea who they are. A good opening match, setting the tone for the evening. Apparently the room is sweltering hot, according to Mike Quackenbush on commentary. And the guests pick up the win after a swanton bomb. And I've got a little bit of a nit to pick here. Who's legal? You see this a lot in tag team matches, especially over the last few years, where both partners will cover somebody to get the victory. Well, guess what? Somebody is acting illegally in that match. And while I'm not entirely sure who was legal at this point, the referee probably should have known, and should have at least realized that one of those guys was in the ring outside of the rules, so that should have been an illegal pin. Come on, Chikara, you're better than this. Focus. And then something really cool happened. Immediately after the match, one of the fans was nice enough to provide some hand sanitizer, which should come free of charge anytime you wrestle Crummels and Defarge. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what it means to be a member of the Chikarmy. Moving on to our second match of the evening, it's going to be an intergender affair. Blank versus Lady Frost, the tortured artist who has seemed to have developed an obsession with the female members of the Chikara roster. Yes, he basically has a Me Too gimmick, family-friendly. And Lady Frost, who's probably going to get sued by Marvel Comics at some point. A recent addition to the roster, I believe she made her debut at the Young Lions Cup, which was now over a year ago. Blank still carrying around his camera that he's been using to take pictures of his female victims. And, oh god, yeah, that's a lawsuit. We start off with a little bit of shtick over the cloak of Lady Frost. Blank saying, that will now become my cloak. Or words to that effect. I'm not doing the accent right. Pretty good match, back and forth. Blank playing the cocky chauvinist, I will say. Ends up winning the match with a knockout punch and goes right back to that camera, taking another picture for his artistic collection. Though he seems rather unsatisfied with the result, yelling at the top of his lungs, "This is all wrong!" before leaving the ring. Another simple but effective match, and I find it interesting going back to Chikara after many months, just how efficient Chikara is in its storytelling. The point of this match was to, A, give Lady Frost a little more experience, but mostly to reinforce the character and the current story of Blank. And that was done so amazingly well. These Chikara guys, whether it be Crummels and Defarge and Blank, or Blank, I should say, know their characters, they know their stories, they know what they're doing, and they're really good at getting their characters across as quickly, as efficiently, and as memorably as possible. I think a lot of rosters could learn from the Chikara roster, and I'm including even people like New Japan. For so many months I had to ask people, okay, what does it mean to breathe with the switchblade? Chikara would have solved that in a 5-minute squash. Coming up next, it's Travis Huckabee versus Jason Gorey, and I have absolutely no idea who Jason Gorey is, but I like him. Apparently this is a Jason Gorey. He takes off the mask when he wrestles, which is unfortunate, but he looks sufficiently inhuman that I'm going to let him get away with that. He appears to be some sort of a goblin-esque creature, or possibly a brownie, from Germanic mythology. It's not a kobold, we already have one of those running around. And I would describe his in-ring style as Middle-earth Esse Rios. With a sprinkle of Rey Fenix/Phoenix thrown in for good measure. And very acrobatic, very impressive. Apparently this guy is a regular and a veteran in IWC, International Wrestling Cartel, which is the group that is hosting this event. That's why it's not the Blue Rope Chikara ring, it's the IWC ring. And apparently this is one of a few matches that are going to be going on throughout the evening, both this show, the IWC show, and the next half of Aniversario, I think. that are IWC versus Chikara. This is the first of those matches, and it is, for better or for worse, a victory for Chikara, as the Golden Grappler locks in the Golden Dream to pick up a fairly easy victory. But I like what I see from this Jason Gory guy, and I would not mind seeing more of his professional wrestling. Up next, we're back to tag team action as the Creatures of the Deep, the Hermit Crab and Murloc, face off against a brand new tag team of Boomer Hatfield and Molly McCoy. Molly McCoy, apparently a distant relative of Boomer and Dasher Hatfield, and I'm guessing a hockey player, judging by the garb. And it's important to remember going into this that Boomer is one show away from facing his father in a mask versus mask match. I'll talk more about that as we get closer to it, but that's definitely going to play in, I'm predicting, to whatever story is about to be told here. Once again, nobody in this match has any points going into the contest. Obviously, Boomer and McCoy are a new tag team. Hermit Crab and Murloc, 0 points as well for the Creatures of the Deep. Okay, we get a lot of information about this new character. First of all, we've established the relationship. She is the daughter of Dasher's sister-in-law. That means that she is Boomer's cousin, Dasher's niece. So that's the family tree here. We also established that she has got an anger management problem, essentially. She's very hot-tempered, very quick to attack people bigger than her, mainly Murloc, and this gets her smashed to the outside fairly quickly. Which brings out Dasher Hatfield, still in his golden dragon greed mask, not with the Grand Championship belt, however. And Dasher is extremely concerned over the health and safety of Molly McCoy, and does not give a flying rat's rear about his own son, who takes an extended 2-on-1 beatdown for what turns out to be the majority of this match. Now, there is one very well done hope spot, to use a somewhat insider term, when a babyface is getting beaten up, what is occasionally known as the heat of the match. The babyface will get some offense in, and that's called a hope spot, to sort of keep the match from getting too depressing. Boomer gets an incredible hope spot when he hits Murloc with a victory roll and has the shoulders down, and the referee has to wave it off because Murloc wasn't the legal combatant. Very well done, shows the heart and the fighting spirit of Boomer Hatfield, and is actually a plausible reason that he can't win the match here. Love it. Not too long after that, unfortunately, Dasher Hatfield comes in, and it looks like, if you can see the picture here, it looks like Boomer was about to get hit by a mid-rope Doomsday Device-like maneuver when Dasher Hatfield comes in, attacks the Hermit Crab and then Murloc, sending them scattering and getting a disqualification victory for not his son. Boomer actually loses the bout via disqualification due to outside interference by his father. After the chaos post-match dies down, we have a war of words between the father and the son, the father hogging the microphone, the son wanting to know what the heck is going on. The father basically says, "I just saved your career, kid. You've got heart. You've got the biggest heart of anyone in that locker room, but you're a disappointment. You can't get the job done." Dasher actually brings up, apparently an incident when Boomer was 9, to which somebody on the outside of the ring, so one of the fans chants, "That was last year!" Which, okay, funny line, well done. Apparently, game-winning run, Boomer rounds third, comes towards home, trips and falls on his face. He was a disappointment then, he's a disappointment now. And I know I haven't talked about this in a long time, but I absolutely love this heel run of Dasher Hatfield. Because every villain is the hero of their own story. And the idea that Boomer is having to deal with his father, who is being, let's face it, abusive, but Dasher genuinely believes that he's the good guy here, and there's just enough plausible deniability, even though the audience knows he's wrong, you can easily see why he thinks he's right. And that is very, very well done. He does, however, cross the line slightly when he does actually shove his son. There is physical contact here. This earns Boomer a chant of, "Hit your dad! Hit your dad!" from the fans. Boomer does not take the bait. He knows that he has his father in a match tomorrow in Chicago at Lucha de Apuestas, mask versus mask, and he's going to wait until the right time. And Dasher says, yeah, you want to earn your stripes in this business? You're going to do it yourself. And we both know you can't get it done. Dasher then helps his niece to the back and completely forgets his very frustrated son, who's left fuming alone in the ring. End of very effective segment. Before I continue on, I would like to make a note, however, that we have been having some technical issues tonight, and mainly in the audio. Mike Quackenbush's audio on Commentation Station is perfectly clear. We can hear everything he's saying. The guy that's doing the other side of the commentary, he's doing the, I guess color commentary would be the best word for it, he's having some audio problems. I can barely hear him half the time. I try not to focus on the production issues of Chikara. That's never been their forte, and that's never been something that they put themselves out as being the best at, but it is something worth noticing when Mike Quackenbush does kind of sound like he's having a conversation with himself. Up next, it is our one and only title match of the evening, the Young Lions Cup. For those of you who don't remember, this is a special championship that can only be defended or challenged for by wrestlers under 25 years of age. It's the Young Up-and-Comers title, won in a tournament every year, and must be defended as a title thereafter. The tournament winner, still of season 20, is Still Life with Apricots and Pears, and they have to defend their title right now. They have to defend their cup against the resilient rookie, Green Ant. Green Ant has changed his ring gear up a little bit, inverted the colors of his mask, a lot more gold in the mask, and frankly, I like it. I think it looks good on him. Still Life with Apricots and Pears comes out, and this was kind of a nothing match. Very simple, very paint by numbers, and no real storyline advancement except to sort of reinforce the character of Still Life with Apricots and Pears and to sort of thread together. This happened on commentary, not in the ring, so I'm not sure I can count it as being part of the match itself. But we did sort of get a connecting thread of creators and creation between Blank and Still Life with Apricots and Pears, between Dasher and Boomer Hatfield, and really emphasizing this conflict between creator and creation, and I really like that. The other big thing that happened on commentary, putting over Still Life with Apricots and Pears is finishing maneuver, and that is the Venus de Milo, and it's a good thing that was done, because that's how they won the match. Coming up next, we have an Atomicos match, and here comes the plot. The first ever match of the Crucible, and this is an eclectic mixture of individuals. We've got Ophidian front and center, establishing him, I'm assuming, as the leader. We have the Whisper, Lance Steele, the time-displaced noble knight. What the heck is he doing here? And a new guy that apparently is called Devantes. And I'm guessing that Devantes, judging by his size, build, etc., is one of the former masked enhancement guys whose name I don't actually remember, Hip Toss Hank or something. That's a weird combination. I feel like I've missed a chapter of this story already. Hopefully we'll get some kind of a backup on commentary, but with Mike Quackenbush in the ring, we may not have commentary at all. So, yeah, I've just decided, if I hadn't already, the next video is going to be trying to catch up on this Crucible stuff. We have Solo Darling, Razorhawk, Thief Ant, and Lightning Mike Quackenbush on the Technico side of the ledger. Oh boy, here we go. The Crucible comes out, and looking very, very cultish in their deference to their obvious leader, Ophidian. And is this kind of what the Dark Order is ripping off? Because it feels like this is what the Dark Order is ripping off. Out next come the heroes, and take a look at Mike Quackenbush. I don't think I've ever seen Quack actually nervous before. I've seen him confident, I've seen him express a wide range of emotions in the ring. Nervous isn't one of them. And on commentary it was made clear that his very legacy in this business, in this sport, is on the line here. This was a massive Suzuki-gun-esque brawl, complete with jumping the bell and all the usual shenanigans, but wow. Quack desperately going after Ophidian, the rest of the Crucible protecting him, and in the end, you had 3 members of the Crucible with 3 submission holds, allowing the new guy, Devantes, to get the pin on Solo Darling. And this was a dominant performance by the Crucible, which is really what you need from a narrative standpoint. This is incredibly smart. You've got a brand new villain, you have to establish them as being dangerous. After the match, there is a small ceremony where, and this is part of what makes me think the Dark Order is ripping off the Crucible and not doing a very good job of it. They take one of the Chikara jobber masks, the enhancement mask, the faceless, and put it forcibly on the face of Lightning Mike Quackenbush, saying, "We have reduced you to the lowest of the low. We have reduced you to enhancement status. You are there just to get us over. You no longer deserve to have a face." Absolutely brilliant storytelling, and I am deeply looking forward to seeing not only where this is going to go, but going back and seeing where it came from. Up next, singles action, Hollowicked versus Missile Assault Man. How the heck do you follow that? By reminding us that Hollowicked is a general all-purpose SOB. That's how. Not the match I expected, if I'm honest. I expected a Minoru Suzuki, Tomohiro Ishii, beat each other up until somebody falls down kind of match. But this was actually surprisingly technical. There was a lot of on-the-mat technical wrestling, scientific wrestling, and I approve of that. Most wrestlers in Chikara are more than one thing, or are capable of more than one thing, even if they are better at something than something else. But I like when characters can actually show that they're a bit more of an all-rounder, as both Missile Assault Man and certainly Hollowicked are. But in the end, it all came down to heelish shenanigans, rudo tactics, most foul. As you can see from the picture here, Missile Assault Man with a clear and obvious pinfall over Hollowicked, the broadsword of Nos Muldoon. However, if you can notice that pant leg, that is the referee unconscious. By the time the referee had regained his senses, 2 things had happened. First of all, Missile Assault Man appeared to have had a PTSD incident. For those of you who have not been following this character, Missile Assault Man, at least we think that's his name. Actually, we know it isn't his name. He has been the victim of not only some military combat, but he's been the victim of brainwashing, cultish indoctrination. He's had his memories overwritten. He doesn't even know who he is, quite frankly, most of the time. And unfortunately, when things don't go his way, he does kind of shut down like this. While this is all happening, Hollowicked has rolled out of the ring, and if you look in the very middle of that picture, you will see Hollowicked's mask. Hollowicked had rolled outside of the ring, taken his mask off, ducked under the ring apron so that his face could not be seen, and thrown the mask into the ring. Missile Assault Man, too focused on his existential crisis to realize what was going on until it was too late. The referee sees the mask, assumes that Missile Assault Man had taken Hollowicked's mask off of him, and under the Chikara system of rules, this is an immediate disqualification. The referee does call for the DQ, victory by disqualification to Hollowicked, 1 point in the singles division. Missile Assault Man is in absolute shock afterwards, psychological victory for Hollow Wicked, but I do not imagine that this feud is anywhere near over. Missile Assault Man is going to be out for revenge. Up next, it is our main event of the evening. It is a tag team contest for Grand Champions. 3 former Grand Champions and the reigning champion in tag team action. And as a longtime Chikara fan, I have to admit, this is weird. Seeing Dasher Hatfield and Icarus on the Rudo side of things, and Princess Kimberly willingly teaming up with the former Juan Francisco de Coronado, now the All-American John Francis of Coronado. This should be a little bit nuts. Quite a bit to talk about here. First of all, I have missed that beautiful golden belt. Second, we have a moment of camaraderie between our newly minted American babyface and our good old-fashioned princess. And I still don't trust John Francis of Coronado. There's something about how he's just a little too eager to embrace the whole USA thing. We'll get back to that in a minute, by the way. That makes me think that this is some kind of a con that he's pulling. I have nothing to base that on. I just think this is a little too sudden of a change, even though we got the story about his citizenship being revoked because he didn't pay his taxes. I just think there's something more to this. I just really can't put my finger on what. But Kimberly likes him, so that should probably be good enough for me. Alright, the match begins, and this was the longest match, or the longest segment of the evening, and deserved to be. This was a fantastic match, up and down by 4 veteran professionals who know how to tell a Chikara story. It was great. A couple of things that happened in the match. First of all, I've talked about how I like referees to not be wimps. Take a look at this picture. Icarus grabbing the hand of Dasher Hatfield to give him additional unfair leverage during a submission hold, and the referee comes back and doesn't disqualify. He catches it, could disqualify, doesn't, and just kicks the wrist free. I think that's beautiful. More referees need to be willing to physically engage themselves in the match for that sort of a situation. After all, attacking the referee is a disqualification-worthy offense. Most heels aren't going to do that if they actually want to win the match. So the referee has some shielding there to actually, do their job. A little bit later, John Francis of Coronado goes full Hulk Hogan. Does the U, does the punches, does the running big boot, which only barely touches Icarus, goes for the leg drop, and then whammo! Dasher basically takes him right out of his red, white, and blue boots, and it was gorgeous. But this feeds into my theory that I don't trust John Francis of Coronado, because honestly, in 2020, doing the Hulk Hogan thing, kind of a rudo move. But Chikara is also a bit of a throwback, so maybe they're really embracing the Americana of it. I generally can't tell at this point. And I like that. In the end, John Francis of Coronado picks up the win over Icarus with the Coronado Clutch submission hold. And then the plot happened. 4 members of the Crucible come out to attack the Technicos, and they pull off an almost Spirit Squad-like maneuver where 4 men lift up a limb of a wrestler, and check how high John Francisco goes here, and they throw him all the way up in the air, and one of the bigger guys catches him with a power slam. They pull the same trick on Princess Kimberly, sending her into the sky and leaving her a crumpled mess on the mat. That's when the lower-ranked members of the Crucible get out of the ring and start guarding the entrance to make sure the Technicos can't come out to help. And we're left with the Whisper and Lance Steele, time-displaced Noble Knight, in the ring. Or should I say ignoble Knight at this point. And it's time for an exposition dump. We finally find out why Whisper has been blackmailing Kimberly for years. It turns out that Lance Steele, who used to be one of Kimberly's clients when she was a manager before she actually got into the ring and became a wrestler in Chikara, is the Whisper's brother. And all of this, all of the crap that Whisper has put Kimberly through over the years, literally chasing her out of Chikara all the way to WWE, is vengeance for how badly she treated his brother back when she was a Rudo. Whisper then goes on a tirade basically accusing the beloved Princess Kimberly of being a fake, of being someone who abuses the peasantry, and just tearing into her. I don't believe 90% of what he said, quite frankly. I think, yes, she was not a nice person back when she managed Night Eye for the pirate guy, but that's not who she is anymore. And a lot of this really felt like good Rudo, heel, whatever you want to call it, exaggeration. Which is what a Rudo should do, what a villain should do when they have a legitimate beef, when they have a legitimate gripe. She was not a nice person back in the day, but that doesn't justify blackmail. That doesn't justify a massive beatings, multiple beatings. That doesn't justify trapping her in an abusive relationship as a tag team partner. So, as bad as Kimberly legitimately was, not as bad as what the Whisper has put her through. Now, at about the midpoint of this tirade, we see, you can barely see them in this picture, 2/3 of the King of Trios, Green Ant and Thief Ant, come out and they try to help. Well, unfortunately, the Crucible make extremely short work of them, literally carrying them and throwing them through the curtain to the back, allowing the Whisper to finish his tirade. Once he does, we get the exposition dump. The Crucible do their genuflection pose in the ring. End of show. Final thoughts. For the first half of the double header for Aniversario, I thought this exceeded expectations for me. Lots of storyline progression, lots of character progression. We have a new villain. That's the main thing coming out of this. We have a new primary villain in Chikara, something we haven't really had in a little while. The Proteus Wheel was the closest thing we've had since the Hexed Men of Nazmaldun. This Crucible, I'm loving everything I'm seeing. Perfectly established on this show. There wasn't a bad match on the show. There were a couple of matches that didn't need to be there. The match featuring the two guys from Impact could have been ignored. And the setting didn't really look good when you're used to something as good as the Wrestle Factory. It is kind of a downgrade, especially when they're not using their own ropes, their own ring. But that didn't take away from the fact that everything in the ring mattered. Everything looked good as far as wrestling went, and every bit of story that was told very, very well. Final grade for Aniversario, the Apes of Wrath, is an A-. On the next episode of Chikara no Rekishi, we will not be moving forward to the second half of Aniversario. We will be going back and looking at the origins of the Crucible. Thank you very much for watching, if you still are. Please like, share, subscribe, enable notifications, leave a comment. Let me know how wrong I am about this. I would enjoy that, actually. See you next time.